Hello, wide world of comics. Time for another video. First, let me tell you about the comic that you're seeing being worked on here. No, I haven't decided to send them back to Iraq, and I have not forgotten which uniforms to color, nor have I decided to downgrade my art to 2015 levels. See, this actually is a 2015 comic that I never finished, so I'll explain. I originally started posting comics twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. I wanted to do more. I had a lot of story to get out of me. I was very eager, I had that fresh puppy momentum, that all brand new webcomicers have. And as I got more comfortable with Photoshop, I started feeling a little all-powerful. And I decided I could tackle 3 times a week. And I was posting Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I did this for a while. And for the record, I do not recommend it. I reached my breaking point around October of 2015. I was very behind. I was cutting into my sleep to get stuff done. Sometimes getting by on like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night and alienating my family. And in other words, I'd bitten off a lot more than I could chew. And I was being really stubborn and kind of stupid about it. And finally, one day I just gave up. Not the comic, but I gave up on my insistence that I was somehow this inexhaustible machine. And I had to ask myself, why was I doing this if not for enjoyment? It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fulfilling. It's not supposed to be a task, a chore. And at one point, I posted a week's worth of comics, 3 in total. I posted a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday comic in unfinished black and white. And I just decided I wasn't going to finish them. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I went back to twice a week schedule, which is still really challenging. I went back to posting Mondays and Thursdays, and that's still pretty challenging. That's a hell of a hill to climb. But compared to 3 times a week, it felt like a vacation. And now I always had in the back of my mind the knowledge that I had 3 unfinished comics from 2015 kind of hanging over my head. Kind of like a ticking time bomb. You know what I mean? Someday I would have to go back and finish those comics, not just out of pride. I hated leaving them undone, so I did have kind of a sense of pride. But someday I would want to repost them somewhere. I might put them on another site, or a mirror site, or put them in a book. And now that time has come. I'm about to be posting these on Instagram. And soon after, I will be posting them on Tapas. And probably in another year or so, they're going to be needed for book number 4. So I kind of have to quit avoiding this, and I need to get busy. So I posted a couple weeks worth of stuff on Patreon. Some classic comics. It's called KGB, Kelly G. Brannon, who was a super spy who worked for the CIA. And it's this really goofy, cheesy, corny, over-the-top kind of satire of the super spy genre. But it's not a satire of any particular spy like James Bond. It was actually my first original work. And in fact, the character KGB is in Bohica Blues. But anyhow, I posted a couple of weeks worth of this stuff, this old classic comics from, I'm not going to say when. I was in high school, okay? Like a freshman in high school. So I posted that on Patreon. That'll last me for a week or so. I have a couple of weeks worth of stuff loaded on Insta and about a month and a half's worth of stuff over at Tapas. So really now is the best time to work on it. I've got the added bonus of being able to use this art for a video now too. But anyhow, as 2022 is winding to a close, we're entering the fall-winter holiday season. And for a lot of creators, that means holiday comics. I have done some holiday comics, but to be honest with you, I generally avoid them. I try to design Bohica Blues with the eventual binge reader in mind. Someone who discovers my comics years after they're done and blasts through large sections of it at a time. That's how I prefer my comics generally. I follow some of my friends' comics and I'll ignore it for months, and then I'll go in and I'll just catch up all at once. I think the hypothesis I have is that I think people like to immerse themselves in an experience and really go along for the ride, tune things out a bit, and just kind of put yourself in a different world for a while. And that's how I do my comics. That's how I do streaming shows and movie series. I like to just kind of cocoon myself in that world for a few days and just live there in my off time. So for future binge readers, a holiday episode almost guaranteed it won't coincide with the actual holiday itself. Plus, a lot of people just don't observe holidays for one reason or another. I kind of just breeze through them, don't really pay much attention to them really. I did do some holiday comics during the regular run of Bohica Blues. I thought it was important how we marked time and observed holidays while we were deployed. It was interesting and relevant to the comic. At the time when we were downrange, when we were in Iraq, it kind of brought a sense of normalcy, a weird, bittersweet sense of normalcy, because on the one hand, it's, you get to go through the familiar rituals, but on the other hand, it kind of reminds you of all the things that you don't have, so I don't know. But once the regular story, the deployment parts of it came to a close, I pretty much dropped off all of my holiday mentions and I let them slide by unremarked. I did a couple 4th of July comics, one while deployed and then one after returning. One of my comics landed right on Memorial Day. I felt it would be weird not to make note of that, so I did a comic for it. I did an early Halloween one in 2014, reflecting the efforts made by a few soldiers to go trick-or-treating with some cobbled-together costumes while downrange. I did a Christmas theme one in Iraq, reflected the feelings of being deployed with the inadequate armor for our vehicles. But the biggest exception was always in November around Thanksgiving. I did a Thanksgiving comic while deployed, but when I got back, the Thanksgiving specials really took off. So Thanksgiving in the United States is celebrated on the 4th Thursday of November. It typically falls around the 24th or so. Meanwhile, Bohica Blues was launched on Veterans Day of 2013, and Veterans Day is the 11th of November. It's more generally known as Armistice Day elsewhere, but it was the day that the peace agreement took effect that officially ended World War I. So every year I felt like I should do some sort of anniversary special each Veterans Day, but then I also felt like I should do something to observe Thanksgiving. So I started doing these big November specials. And I would take a week and I would fill the whole week with some sort of extended story, 2 or 3 pages every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and wrap up a big story arc. And I did this for a few years, like 3, 4 years. It was fun. I loved it. I had some really fun stories and I got to, do more stretched out story arcs, I actually prefer that instead of gag a day, but it was painful. It was really painful. It really ate into my family time at a moment when it was least convenient or appreciated. I eventually toned down my enthusiasm and tackled projects that were a little bit more manageable, but I reserved the November time slot for some of my ambitious projects. This year, for 2022, I just did a 2-page Thanksgiving special. Briefly touching base with some old characters that we haven't seen in a while. Joe Rock interacted with his old friend Jorge Ricardo, their former team leader Jamal Kajama, and former 213th Battalion member Cecilia Glass, who's now a wounded veteran on disability. I did this because I wanted to show that Joe and the others did keep in touch in their own ways, even if they weren't side by side, and to show that no matter how you are together with friends or family over the holiday, being together in some capacity is all that really matters. So the comic posted on the 20th, a Sunday, 20th of November, and I'm going to take a break for a couple of comics and probably resume around the 20th of December. I used to take regular breaks, but I haven't been doing that lately. Right now I'm very busy putting together book 3 and filling all these past comics that you see into Instagram and Tapas. The comics loaded into Tapas are getting extra commentary added to them. My first comics on the main website frequently posted without any commentary or just a couple sentences. But on Tapas, I'm going to go much more in-depth. I'm kind of shaking loose some of my old memories, and as the years have gone by, I've gotten a bit more perspective on my time in Iraq and my time creating these comics. I'd like to address some of the feelings I've had over the years as I tackle the project, so I'm adding some of that into the commentary. A large part of this is because very soon, 2023, is going to be a big anniversary year. In March of 2003, the Iraq War kicked off, and in November of 2013 was when I launched the comic. So 2023 will be the 20-year anniversary of the Iraq War and the 10-year anniversary of Bohica Blues. So I'm, kind of keenly aware of the passage of time and that I need to put in my memories as I think of them. I'm hoping to have the main story fully loaded into both Instagram and Tapas by the end of the year. I'm also putting together some more merch for sales at conventions and to hand out on Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, for those of you that are there, you already know that I am working on a big new project, my Empires project, the big science fiction action adventure comic. It's finally underway. I'll toss in a few sneak peeks here as well. If you're interested, join Patreon for more. Otherwise, you're just going to have to wait until the comic is posted over at Tapas to see it, and that's going to be a while. It's probably going to run about 12 chapters, and I've got about 1.5 chapters penciled. Not inked yet, not inked or anything like that, but just penciled. But over at Patreon, there's a lot of development sketches and doodles. There's sneak peeks, works in progress, old classic comics from when I was really young. Sometimes I even have unique Patreon-only comics that pop up every so often. They're not getting posted anywhere else. They're only on Patreon. Drop on by. Consider joining this small but very exclusive crowd of folks who are on the inside track over at Patreon. I just want to reiterate, when people join me on Patreon, you're not just handing me pizza and beer money. Any and all income from my comics, my art, my stories, it gets put into the creation of more comics, art, and stories. And if you can't afford to buy or donate, then don't worry. Drop by at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, give a like, give a supporting comment. It all adds up and it's all appreciated. It helps, kind of goose the algorithm so my stuff stays visible somehow. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's already gone on a lot longer than I thought, and I've kind of wandered a bit. So thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you've stuck around this far, you may as well hit like and subscribe. Talk it over with your doctor. Use only as directed, and please return the seat trays to the upright position. So until next time, keep things interesting by keeping things random.